The bad stress definitely. Hey everybody, welcome back. Happy Friday. Massive breaking news this morning. In case you missed it, it looks like over 1 million people have watched it so far, and it looks like the reels are climbing into the millions as well. JD Vance, Vice President JD Vance, just went on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. And from the bits that I've caught so far, one of the reasons I love Stephen Bartlett is he does not hold back. It does not matter. With one exception of Michelle, remember we showed that here, Michelle Obama, when she complained. I mean, he couldn't push back. I think the Brown thing was a factor for him, but he did not hold her to the same standard he has held literally every single guest to. So it was a little bit nauseating. But I mean, she was so unlikable. Like we all felt sorry for him having to do the interview. So we all let him have a pass on that one. But the JD Vance interview is, I mean, it's great. It's great from a leftist perspective. Those of you who've been challenging the cultural diversity, multiculturalism narrative and saying how much you just love it. It's so great. And we need to keep doing more of this stuff, both in the United States and around the world. Clearly, that that conversation, that rhetoric, that narrative, whatever is failing because London just voted. They're going to start sending these immigrants back. They're sending them back. They are getting them out. I suppose after 70,000 sexual assaults of girls, stabbings this year, they finally have had enough. Finally, they've had enough. And it's looking to me too, we're going to need to look into where the money is going to come from to pay Iran for the Straits of Hormuz. So we have a lot to talk about today. Plus, we have a special guest, school board, Texas State Board of Education member Julie Pickering. Dr. Julie Pickering is going to be joining us today to talk about Sharia overtake of the state of Texas. What is going on? You know that when things are in their death row, they seem to get a little bit louder. They whip a little harder. I mean, they're fighting for their life. I believe that's what we have going on right now in the state of Texas when it comes to Sharia. They are fighting for their lives, trying to declare relevance, camaraderie, and just good old peaceful Texas negotiations. I don't think Dr. Pickering is going to allow them that room. And of course, we have a really, really important event happening on Monday with the Texas State Board of Education. So we're going to talk about that and a little bit more. But I want to dial back for a minute to the JD Vance interview with Stephen Bartlett. So, Stephen Bartlett, in case you don't know anything about him, he comes out of Europe. He's a London boy, immigrated there with his mother. His story is actually pretty profound. He's literally the picture of the American dream. So some of his leftist views I always think are a little bit they're surprising to me. He's such an individualist, but sometimes he gets brought back into that groupthink. But I still really enjoy him. I think he's a really, really great interviewer. He does get to the heart of things, and even sometimes with his bias, he's able to check himself in the middle of it. So the JD Vance interview, the fact that JD Vance is number one being public again, we haven't seen that much of him. He's kind of been tucked away through this whole Iran deal. Marco Rubio's really been the one being the face of this whole war effort and being brought to the front along with Pete Hegseth. And JD was really not anywhere too much to be seen. You kind of had to go hunting for him if you wanted to find him. Going on Diary of a CEO means that you want and need international attention now. And I think it's interesting. You know, sometimes I speculate on these things. I find I'm often wrong, so I hate to even speculate, but JD is he is the face and the voice of no war. He is the remaining, best friend of Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's position on Iran. So I think it's very interesting that he's being brought back out to the front. He's been being put on, big podcasts. I have no doubt that he'll be on Theo Vaughn again here pretty soon, trying to appeal once again to the 20s and 30s who jumped on the Trump wagon and felt a little bit betrayed when the Iran war broke out, and the narrative of why are we still talking about the Epstein files. Two really tragic things, for the Trump administration and for President Trump's promises that he made himself. And, obviously I support President Trump. That does not take away the fact that there are decisions that have been made that we all kind of go, what is going on? This past week has been very interesting. And I haven't listened again to the entirety of the JD Vance interview. I think everyone should go watch it if you want to really get a feel for what's happening. One thing I think it's hard for JD Vance to not tell the truth. And I think if he's not telling the truth, it's really evident pretty quickly. You can kind of tell that something's off with what he's saying. He's trying to cover or he's trying to redirect. So I think you're going to get a lot out of the interview. I have so far. The biggest thing is his protection and defense of President Trump. His acknowledgement, as always, as everyone has to and must, that President Trump's ways are not our ways. The way he talks, the way he deals with things, the way he goes on about stuff, it is not our ways, but it doesn't matter because it was refreshing to the American people. That's why they elected him into office. We were tired of people telling us to change our speech, he, him, her, they, them, whatever new term they had for themselves. We were tired of that. We were tired of being told that we weren't watching our own culture get completely flushed down the toilet in lieu of this multiculturalism scam. And so, those things are significant in places where we are living the experience of multiculturalism. We're living it. It's just a reality. That issue is covered in this interview with JD Vance. The way that President Trump talked about immigrants, the way that he talked about illegal immigrants, mostly that's what he was talking about, and the way that Bartlett turns this around to once again do that groupthink thing where you're not allowed to say that Central Americans coming to America has been really bad for America. Africans going to London, going to Belgium, going anywhere in Europe has been pretty darn bad for Europe. It's been really bad for them. They will not assimilate. They can't seem to figure out that they're living in a first world, and it's been devastating. Okay, it's just devastating for everybody. Um, there's a lot of push on that, and I think you should hear it. I think again, it's a refreshing conversation because I know that Stephen Bartlett still carries some of those leftist views, and so he's not just trying to be smart. He's just saying, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" So I think it answers a lot of questions for the left and the right. Go watch it. Go check it out. It's already up over a million views, 1.1 million, and climbing right now. And the comments are wild. Go check it out. JD Vance coming to the front again is very telling. I do believe that means that the Iran escapade is over. Whatever that was, maybe it was taking all the oil. President Trump said we went in and we took all their oil, and they're just now finding out about it right now as I'm speaking. Iran just found out about it because I just now told all of you that we took all of their oil. I did hear that the week before, but I thought that's crazy. How would they not know that we're taking all their oil? But I guess they didn't know. We took all their oil. Okay. The other thing I've heard is that all the uranium that was left, we have also taken that. Everything that was done through the Uranium One deal by Russia passed on to Iran. We also confiscated that. We're going to find out more. I don't know. But I know everybody's wondering where is the $300 billion coming from that's going to pay Iran off? And where's the 10 billion a year going to come to use the Strait of Hormuz? Here's what I think, because we don't actually know yet, and we won't know until it's really like literally on paper. It doesn't matter what people are saying until it's on paper and we see what the agreements are. I would not be surprised one bit if Trump ropes the majority of those expenditures into the EU and NATO. I'm going to be surprised. I'm going to be very, very surprised if he does not get, Turkey and Lebanon, surrounding countries over there, and Israel to pay the $310 billion it's going to take this year to stop the war. We're going to find out more about that. We don't really know yet. This is just what we're initially being told, but I do not think America will be paying that bill in any form or fashion. I don't know how they're going to divvy up the oil. I don't know what's going to happen with that. We're all waiting with bated breath to see exactly what's going on. And that's the thing about President Trump. That's why I've just been so reluctant to say anything specifically or with total definitive, because the truth is, he can change his mind on a dime. He can be maneuvering one way and understand that's not going to be the ultimate goal because we've had this issue going on now since October with Israel and with the public. How do you say it? Because anytime you say anything right now about Israel, it's considered anti Semitic, and that's just not true. Like, we can't just talk about like multiculturalism, we can't just talk about facts. And I think with Israel right now being as unpopular as they have been since October, since Benjamin Netanyahu came out and decided he publicly needed to tell the world he didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That was so weird. It was so strange. It was so off putting, so unnecessary. If you, and so weird that I think it really caught everybody's attention and they started paying attention to other things, you know. And can't see a world where Netanyahu is anything but his own worst enemy every time he talks, every time he does something and tries to say that he doesn't give two cares what America has to say, even though we have funded his war with Iran. You know, he won't listen to the president. He's very much in that same, he's getting into that same corner as Zelensky has gotten himself into. And with Zelensky, it's just always he doesn't understand where he sits on the podium, you know, on the pole, on the totem pole. He doesn't get it. And I'm just wondering if Netanyahu is having one of those moments where he does not get it, where he is on the totem pole and in the pecking order, and the mess that he has made for the support of Americans, because Americans don't support bombing Lebanon and Beirut. It didn't have to be like that. I agree with President Trump, obviously, that we all agreed with, you know, the original statement of President Trump, no more wars, no more just going in and blowing people up. We had other methods and other ways of doing things. But what he's repeatedly said, that President Trump, that is that Netanyahu does not know what he's doing. There's a lot there. There's a lot going on with Israel. Captain Yari Tabash is going to be coming on with us next week. He's one of the biggest experts, obviously, on Israel. He is a Jew himself, and he has a lot to say. He just released a video yesterday that was so compelling, calling out Jews, calling out Israel, really, on once again stepping in it because they're not choosing to understand and see the bigger picture with what President Trump is doing. And it's almost like, you know, being a parent, like President Trump is daddy, and he's watching these kids squabble, and they don't understand that one day they're going to have to be friends because daddy's not going to be there anymore to keep solving all their problems for them. And I think President Trump is finally realizing that these kids need to sort it out themselves, and perhaps stepping into it was not the best idea ever. But Captain Yari Tabash has an excellent perspective. I will post a link to the commentary that he just gave yesterday. He has spent 10 years working in Ukraine. He was a first Soviet born captain in the US military. And hopefully, Lord willing, he'll be the next ambassador to Ukraine on behalf of President Trump and the Trump agenda there, really for peace throughout the entire region. He's an extraordinary person. And really, his perspective is the only one I'm really interested in with this because he brings such a refreshing uh, and loyal view, loyal to America, loyal to President Trump, trying to see the best in what's happening, but also acknowledging when there are mistakes or failures. But not in the way that these petty. I told you all about this. The senators and the congressmen who are throwing America under the bus. No, not like that, but in a restorative, measured tone. So you're going to love hearing more from him. So that's been going on, and it's very, very, very interesting. Now, before we get to our guest who's going to be joining us in just a few moments, I want to declare one more thing, and that is, on June 11th, there was I would call it more of a press conference than a roundtable, where all the big heads, all the big figures, I mean, in the DOJ, the FBI, Department of Education, Secretary Linda McMahon was there. Several very important attorneys and advisors to President Trump were there. And of course, parents, specifically Scott Smith was actually the only parent who got to testify to the weaponization of government against parents. The rest were government employees, which was interesting, but nonetheless, they were weaponized against too, I suppose. Um, but out of that has come an absolute fervent desire by General Harmeet Dillon to literally, from where I'm sitting, watching her posts, reading everything she's putting out, watching her videos, to literally go dig out every bit of this trans cult, of this opposition to parents and parental rights throughout the country via the public education system. And just this morning, she released a video letting America know that any state, any school in any state that is in violation of Title IX will be looking at prosecution. And, you know, General Harmeet Dillon, she comes out of California, probably one of the worst states in the union next to Colorado for this trans cult, for the kidnapping of children by these quote educators from their parents because they would not agree to these these this trans cult terms and taking their children. Same thing happening in Colorado, but using the public school system and public funds to do it. They're using taxpayer dollars to groom your children into becoming mentally ill, mentally insane, and mutilating themselves. And General Dillon, I just wanted to give a shout out to her because typically in the past, the civil division has been one thing, but they haven't taken on education issues. And they are going to take it on. They are going to be taking on, they just assessed a case out of Jefferson County, Colorado, probably one of the most prolific essay counties by school teachers in the entire state of Colorado. It's like they all met there, all these deviants in the public school system met there in Jefferson County and decided to take over the schools there. And it might be. It might be. It's been like a big beacon. You know how Batman had his sign? Well, Jared Polis has had his sign. Every deviant out there, please come to Colorado and sexually destroy and groom children. We have a place for you. That's essentially what Colorado has done. And Newsom has done the same exact thing. And by the way, Polis and Newsom are besties. So that makes perfect sense. Um, but I just want to say, General Dillon, especially this case in Jefferson County, Colorado, Jeffco is abhorrent. That's where we just had the LGBTQ trans teacher who forced the girls to kiss each other for a grade. Oh yes, that was Denver Schools, Jeffco. I'm very excited, very thankful for General Dillon. Please be watching that. And then if you are a parent, you guys, if you are a parent and this is happening in your district, see, they're focusing on districts now. They're focusing on the schools. Don't worry if you're like, there's no way they would come to our state. If this is happening in your school, reach out to us at 1-833-42-PROTECT-KID, and we will certainly deliver your story to them. And every one of these pedophiles, every one of these deviants needs to be investigated immediately. It has gone on too long. You know, this is new. This is like 10 years old of us permitting this stuff and really aggressively just since 2019. And look at how bad, how fast, how bad it got. While there it was certainly an agenda, it was certainly coordinated, and it was certainly was a conspiracy and is a conspiracy to destroy our children. But nobody knows more about that and better about that than our guest today, Dr. Julie Pickering of the Texas State Board of Education. Not only has she been fighting for great education for the children of Texas, and of course, what happens in Texas spreads to the rest of the country, but also been standing against this deviancy and this mitigation of parental rights, mitigation of a parent's role in a child's life, these leftist tactics that were meant to destroy and break up the family. She has been fighting, I would say, raging hard against those types of woke agenda policies that have been trying to be inflicted into Texas state education. And then to add to that whole muck and mire, we now have the Sharia attempted takeover. Dr. Pickering, thank you so much for being with us on America's Mom.
Hi, Sharona. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today.
Thank you. Gosh, well, let's back up just a little bit. I told everybody exactly what happened last weekend at the Republican GOP conference, and it was at the Senate the portion of the event. This is the annual state assembly. Everybody's getting together. Obviously, we've got big elections going on,
Mhm.
and a board founding board member of CARE, which has been deemed a terrorist organization, was given time to speak at the Republican convention. Okay. And okay, that is what it is. But then he called you out from the stage and called you a terrorist. Dr. Pickering, what happened from there?
Yes, Sharona, you can imagine my surprise whenever I was in at the Republican Party of Texas convention, which, by the way, I've been going to the RPT conventions almost my entire life. It's really something very special to be a part of and to unite with, almost 8,000 delegates, Republican delegates from across the state. It feels like a family reunion or a homecoming, in a way because we get together every 2 years. But it's just a wonderful event. But you can imagine my surprise whenever I was in the senatorial district meeting. So, whenever we go to the Republican Party of Texas, the business of the convention happens when we go to our senatorial districts for our meetings. Okay, that's where we elect the chairman of the convention. That's where a lot of things happen. So you can imagine my surprise whenever I go to my senatorial district meeting and where my husband and I are delegates of that senatorial district, and the founder and president of CARE is sitting 8 seats down from me. And so, just not wanting to cause any problems at the moment or do anything because I'm not absolutely certain that it's him. I just sit there and, do the business of the convention and talk to get up as a state elected official and talk to the constituents, which it's always wonderful to be with my constituents. But anyway, so then at one point, one of our House of Representative members, Republican House of Representative members, she gets up and she introduces this man and yields all of her time to him. At which point, he very proudly gets up and announces himself as the founder and president of CARE, a CARE chapter, and goes into all of these things about why, Republicans and CARE share values, which we don't. Republicans are constitutionalists. CARE believes in Sharia law. It's one of the reasons why Governor Abbott has declared them a terrorist organization. But then at this point, I'm standing on the back wall. It's a long meeting. It's a long morning. I've stood up. I'm standing on the back wall. And then whenever he sees me, he just launches into this tirade, just yelling and screaming at me and calling me all kinds of names. And so it kind of devolved from there. The sergeant at arms tried to take his microphone from him. He wouldn't give it up. They got into a little kerfuffle. So, it's just wild to have the founder and president of a terrorist organization not only at a Republican Party of Texas convention, but actually sitting just a few seats down from me. Because as you know, Sharona, CARE has now held 4 press conferences,
Yes.
calling me out of office. So it was very alarming.
So let's kind of go back to that. So this guy's name is Hussein, Tarek, however you say his name, Hussein, and he's actually a doctor. He runs a practice, and at least since 2004, based on the documentation, the pamphlet that he created for Sharia to be infiltrated into the state of Texas and around the rest of the country, you guys can look it up. It's a 22-page manual on how to infiltrate public office in America. At least since 2004, he's been very actively trying to insert himself into public narrative, okay, into public policy. Now, it's reached new heights. And this is, if you can kind of touch on this so that Texas parents and American parents understand what's going on. As a side note, in Rifle, Colorado, there are no Muslims. And just this year, just in the last 2 months, a Muslim like worship place has been opened in the heart of the Rifle downtown, just all of a sudden out of the blue, completely antithetical to this climate, to this culture, everything. I mean, there's nothing in common here. So those who are watching, who are thinking, well, they're not doing Sharia, they're not doing all this stuff. Okay, well, let's just go back to the beginning. We have this guy, he establishes CARE. It's now known to be, there he is, now known to be a terrorist organization. And they have tried to insert revisionary history now into the textbooks for the state of Texas. Can you talk about what's going on there? Because this is really where you caught their ire. They were saying all of these things that are not true about Islamic heritage in the founding of America, and of course you pushed back against that and became enemy number one. What was the things that they wanted added to the history books, and what transpired after that? I mean, I know they had hundreds of people showing up at these school board meetings against you, and death threats against you and your husband, your children, and your dog because they don't like dogs. What exactly was it they wanted to have implemented in education?
So, Sharona, you're right. CARE, the terrorist organization, as designated by Governor Abbott, and as the FBI says, they are the face of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. So this isn't. I mean, we're not just throwing around this term terrorist lightly. This has significant meaning. So when Governor Abbott designated them a terrorist organization and sent a letter for the attorney general to investigate them as a terrorist organization and reported them to the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I mean, this is a very real situation in Texas. So CARE, this terrorist organization, has come to the State Board of Education 4 times now to testify on what they want in U.S. history and what they don't in Texas history and what they don't want in U.S. and Texas history. And what they are demanding is a full rewrite of history, of U.S. history and Texas history. They want us to rewrite our standards for social studies, kindergarten through 12th grade, so that we teach that the greatness of America comes from Islam, and that the Alamo was built and designed to honor Islam. And so they have a whole list of demands. They want founding documents very limited or not at all. They want presidents George Washington gone. This is all in their press conferences that they have been hosting with different organizations, with the Red Green Alliance, with different organizations that they are aligning with at our Texas State Board of Education. The demands at these press conferences are just crazy. No Christopher Columbus, no Thanksgiving, no George Washington's prayer, Thanksgiving Day prayer, which is a National Archive document. That is an actual presidential document. So they, along with their cohorts at these press conferences, have made a whole list of demands of what they don't want. So this man also, the founder and president of CARE, that was in my SD convention at the Republican Party of Texas convention as a delegate, his organization, CARE Houston, has also been hosting these trainings on how to organize and testify before the Texas State Board of Education. And they also have been hosting webinars on what to talk about and what to say so that we can have so that they can promote Sharia law through public education. And also, whenever he's at the Republican Party of Texas convention as a delegate, that's really kind of you're pledging your loyalty to support Republican initiatives, to support the will of the Republican people in Texas. And meanwhile, the CARE is holding press conferences at the State Board of Education, hosting several Democrat statewide elected officials, including James Tallarico, who is running for Senate right now in Texas. The man that says that God is non-binary, and that that there's what 20 something different genders, whatever he says, the craziness that he says, and what he says that obviously the Bible supports abortion because Mary had a choice on whether to have Jesus or not. I mean, it's craziness what this weirdo Tallarico has been saying around the state. But here he was, part of the press conference at the Texas State Board of Education when CARE and their cohorts are making these demands on what they do want and what they don't want taught in Texas public schools.
And here's the thing about it, Julie, you're out there fighting as a mother, as a Christian, as a mother, and of course, as a Republican servant of the people for SBOE 7. And we have Republicans who are onboarding with this. It was Representative Terry Leo Wilson who gave her time up to allow the board, the founding member of CARE, I mean, it's very difficult for me to even understand how this is happening, because we're not just talking about, again, we're not talking about just a religious organization and they're just nicely doing their things. No, this is a terrorist organization. CARE is a terrorist organization in the state of Texas. So if somebody, a Republican representative like Terry Leo Wilson, comes out giving up her platform, giving up her time to a delegate who is running CARE, she's basically saying she is not aligned with the Republican Party, with the head of the Republican Party, which is Governor Abbott, with Senator Paxton, or excuse me, boy, that was prophetic. Sorry, AG Paxton, who also has declared that CARE is a terrorist organization. How does that sit? I mean, you're literally down there fighting. You've got hundreds of people from CARE and these different the Red Green alliances you're talking about, and they're violent. It's not like they're just coming there peacefully. They've been threatening you, threatening your family, threatening to kill your pets. How what's being done about that?
Yes, so Sharona, whenever this happened, of course, I was not expecting this at all. I had my children, I had my family at the Republican Party of Texas convention. Like I said before, this is like a family reunion for us. My kids have been raised up in the Republican Party of Texas. They've been volunteering since, as we say in Texas, since they were knee high to a grasshopper. Since they were little, they've been with me at all, and my husband at all the RPT conventions. When they got old enough, they've been volunteers at the convention. Same as me. I started volunteering at the Republican Party of Texas convention when I was just a very young teenager, 13, 14 years old. So, of course, I have my whole family there. So, whenever the founder and representative of a CARE chapter of CARE is sitting 8 seats down from me, all of a sudden, the mom alarm starts going off for me. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, okay, where's my husband? Okay, he's over here. Where's my children? Where are
Oh
they at?
yeah.
Where are they at in the building? Because this is at the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is massive. It's hundreds of thousands of square feet. There's a huge exhibit hall. There's General Assembly. There's all these breakout rooms. So, of course, the mom in me just starts really thinking, okay, I need security. My children, what's going on? Where's my family? That was my first thought. And then my second thought was, oh my goodness, we have all of these Republican constituents here. Who's protecting them? You have the founder
Absolutely.
and the president, which, by the way, he was very proud of it. As soon as he got up to speak, the first thing he said was, I'm the founder and president of CARE. So he wasn't trying to hide it. There wasn't like a deceitful thing going on. He's very proud of who he is and what he's founded. So for this House member to yield her time to him, it was just so wild, because It's my understanding that he's not even her constituent. He doesn't live in her district. He's not one of her voters. He's not one of his constituents. So still, I have the question: what's the connection? Why would a state elected official yield their time to someone who should be a stranger to them? If not, I mean, not even if she didn't even know he was the founder and president of CARE. It's so wild the state elected official would yield their time to a perfect stranger. So I still have the question of, how, what's the connection? How does she know him? Why did she yield her time to him in a space that Thursday, that first Thursday of the elected convention, is reserved for state elected officials for us to talk to our constituents. So it's a space that's specifically designated for state elected officials, and yet here she is yielding her time to someone who's not her constituent, doesn't live in her district. I still don't understand what the connection is and why she would do that. But anyway, so yes, my first thought is, as a mom and as a wife, is immediately, where's my husband, where's my children, and then how fast can I get my security team there? Because
Well,
whenever they hold these press conferences, it just draws the crazies out. So the
oh yeah.
online threats, the comments, it gets wild in my world every time they hold one of these press conferences. Because like that day when he's calling me names, they routinely call me names. They'll call me Christian nationalist, which is their side-handed way of calling us Nazis, right? Or they'll
Yes.
call me Islamophobic, or I mean, he was calling me so many names that day. So it's just wild to me that that was even allowed, that he was even allowed to be there, and that a state elected official would yield her time to him.
Well, and for those those who are thinking this is really a nothing burger and I'll just move right along, I don't think so. Houston Public Media, in partnership with PBS, posted an article. A Muslim Texan sought to find his place in the party at the state GOP convention, and he left in tears. Oh my, oh my. Muslim delegates, they left out the part of care, they left out the part of terrorists, they left out the part where he calls out our elected official from the stage. You're going to continue to see nonsense like this, which is going to propagate some of this violent rhetoric, which is going to also propagate more of them thinking they need to take over our political system in the state of Texas. This is what we're talking about when we say they're not willing to assimilate, they want to take over and then interject what their values are and what their policies are. Because, as you said, for those who are listening to, we are talking about the infiltration of Sharia law. And tell us a little bit about that for those who may not understand why this is significant. This isn't just your quiet Muslim neighbor living next to you, just living their life, okay? Please explain to people who are listening, why is this different when we're talking about Sharia?
Yes, when you talk about Sharia law versus somebody being a Muslim, because there is a difference. I do know Muslim people who live, I'm from Houston, the most international city probably in America outside of New York. And I do know people, I do have friends who are Muslim who do not want to live under Sharia law. They're in America because they love the US Constitution. So we can't get this conflated that every Muslim is part of CARE and that CARE represents every Muslim. That's not the truth. Okay, CARE is a terrorist organization, like I said, as designated by Governor Abbott, as designated by Governor DeSantis, and reported to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and who the FBI says is the face of the Muslim Brotherhood. So CARE, the the people who are trying to conflate this into a religious thing, they're just being very opportunistic to try to make Republicans look bad and make Republicans sound bad. It's not, that wasn't it. This was the man who was sitting in my SD, like I said, about 8, 9 seats down from me, was the founder and the head of a foreign terrorist organization as designated by the governor of Texas. So, what they want to do, Sharia law is a government and political system. It is a government and political system that is completely an antithesis to the United States Constitution. It does not believe that all people are created equal. It believes women, Sharona, me, you, women, daughters, our granddaughters, our nieces, all women are a subclass of society, that we are property of men. And so then I cannot believe any woman that would stand up and promote this, or stand with CARE, or stand and support with them, knowing what Sharia law teaches about women. In Sharia law, we've seen this in the Middle East. We've seen this in cases coming out of the Middle East, that if a woman is raped under Sharia law, it's her fault. She's punished for it. She did something wrong to entice the man, and she is punished for it. We saw a case come out of the Pakistan Supreme Court about 2 months ago, where the Pakistan Supreme Court, under Sharia law, ruled that it was okay for a grown Muslim man to kidnap a 12-year-old Christian girl to marry her, and that her Christian father had no right to go and get her back or retrieve her or have her returned to her family. That is what Sharia law means. And that is why every single American who loves freedom, who loves women's rights, who believes in the United States Constitution, absolutely should stand up against Sharia law. This fundamentally will change America and Texas, but it is CARE, the terrorist organization, who has been showing up to our State Board of Education along with the Democrat members, James Tallarico, the Democrat members of our State Board of Education, who are standing up to impose Sharia law into our Texas education system. And that is why it's so important that we stand up and speak up, because what Texas decides affects almost half the nation, half the states in the nation, because Texas has the most school age children now. We're coming up on almost 6 million school age children. So we're kind of neck and neck with California. But what Texas has an advantage over California is that California is broke, right? They're, by some accounts, $270 billion deficit, whereas Texas is flushed with cash. So the publishers, the national publishers, they write their textbooks and their instructional materials according to our standards. So what we decide will easily affect half the children in America. So that is why it is so important that we stand up to this Red Green Alliance, CARE, along with all of these people who want this complete rewrite of U.S. and Texas history. It's why so important that we stand up, because we have to stand up for future generations of Texans and Americans. We have to stand up for our little girls. I can't imagine having a daughter that was going to be in Texas or in America that was going to have to live under Sharia law.
Absolutely not.
it, it,
Absolutely
it
not.
breaks my heart, and I promise you I'll fight with everything in me, because my constituents gave me a clear mandate to fight
Yes.
Sharia law. In March, we had a referendum on banned Sharia law in Texas, and in SBOE 7, it passed by 97%. It was the highest percentage in the whole state. Actually, the district that I represent carried 20% of the state's vote. So this isn't just Julie Pickren's opinion. This is the mandate from the over 2 million people that I have the honor of serving and representing. And I promise you, Sharona, I will fight this fight with every breath in me.
Well, and so on that note, we need the people to come and we need them to show up on Monday, June 22nd, just right around the corner. There is going to be a Patriot gathering, really. We are calling all parents and great Texans, and well, gosh, neighboring states as well. Come and join us on June 22nd. Um, there's going to be testimony given all day about the social studies curriculum and about state mandated reading lists. And we're going to need the people standing up. But today is the last day, right, Julie? Today's the last day. You can register online at the Texas State Board of Education site. And if you want to give public commentary, you must be registered by the end of business today at 5 p.m. on that site. What else can we expect from Monday, the 22nd?
That's correct. We need patriots to show up, because they have been hosting meetings around the state, and they're saying at this point that we're just not being inclusive. So you're going to see all kinds of people at the Texas State Board of Education, because they know that this is their last chance to change it. This is second reading and final adoption. And once we take this final vote, once we make these final amendments and take this final vote, then we don't touch this again for another 14 to 15 years. So this is it. This is the hill. This is the war. And we have to say no to all of the Marxist Democrat amendments. They came with a lot of amendments last time on what CARE was demanding and what the terrorist organization was demanding. And they came with a lot of amendments last time that would rewrite Texas and U.S. history. So I encourage my Republican counterparts on the Texas State Board of Education to stand firm and reject every single CARE terrorist amendment, and reject every Marxist Democrat amendment that's going to be submitted.
And that's this red green alliance that you're talking about, right? The emergence of communists with Sharia and their infiltration into our political and educational systems.
Because what we're seeing is the alliance between socialist, communist, and the Sharia law, CARE, the terrorist organization, and Sharia law. We're seeing this alliance because, as the saying goes, they have one common enemy, and that common enemy is America, and that common enemy is the United States Constitution. So I'm going to say it's a fragile alliance, because they'll stay aligned until as long as they work to destroy America and work to destroy the United States Constitution or go against the United States Constitution to infiltrate, to change laws, to change amendments, to change policies, to promote Sharia, they'll stay aligned during that time. But who knows what happens if that ever happens? God forbid that ever happens, which
God
I don't
forbid.
believe it will. The United States
Yeah.
Constitution is the longest running constitution in world history. It is a very blessed document, blessed by God. And I know the Lord above all will protect the United States Constitution.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julie Pickering of the Texas State Board of Education. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Monday, June 22nd, we need every one of you to show up, to be there, and to stand firm for these kids and for the future, as you so beautifully mentioned. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Sharona. I appreciate you. God bless America and God bless America's moms.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would add also, for those of you who are watching and wondering, what can I do with my money today? Well, I have an idea. Give it to a political candidate who's actually doing what she says she's going to do. Dr. Julie Pickering obviously is running for office right now again and is in the middle of a hot, hot, hot election. She is going to have I mean, they're full on. These extremists, care, all of them, they are going to be partnering together. The trans cult, all of them are coming after Dr. Pickering this November, and we need everybody standing with her. So go make a contribution today to her account, Dr. Julie Pickering. You can find her easily online. Find her on X. I'll post a link to her as well here. Go make a contribution. This is easily going to be $1 million campaign, which, can you believe that? I mean, that's just absolutely wild, but it is going to be, and we need everybody standing up and standing firm with
Yes,
those
Sharona.
who have proven they're going to stand for us. Go
And
ahead.
they can go to my website, juliepickren.com. It's just my name, www.julie, Julie, Pickren, Pickren.com. Because, yes, as you said, this is going to be a very expensive campaign because I have stood strong and been very vocal leading this fight.
And thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
God bless you.
Uh, you know, I also couldn't help but notice in that same Houston publication that they weren't using the name Tarek for Mr. Hussein, for Dr. Hussein. Oh no, the Houston publication article actually calls him Muhammad Hussein, except Muhammad's nowhere in his Wikipedia. It's nowhere on any of his business profiles. But the day he shows up to the Republican Party GOP meeting, the state meeting, the big, huge assembly, the most important gathering for the Texas Republican Party, it's Muhammad. Because you know why? Because Republicans are Islamophobes. That's why. He goes by Tarek everywhere else but Muhammad this last week. Crazy. These people are crazy. They're crazy. They pull out all the stops, you guys. It really is something to behold. And I'm going to post this article too because it is just way too funny. It'll give you a good chuckle. The people at PBS and Houston Public Media should be ashamed of themselves. This is where we're like, are you a citizen of America, of the state of Texas, or should we just ship you right now off to China because maybe that's where you should be, or Pakistan for that matter? If we're supporting Sharia, let's just go. Let's go. Let's send them all to Pakistan. Sounds like a great fit. I would love for all these people who show up on the 22nd advocating and supporting Sharia infiltration into our public education system, revisionary history, which is actually just false history in this particular case. I think we should send them on a special trip to Pakistan. Let's see how long they last. I think it's a great idea. We should do it. So there we go, guys. Lots happening, lots more going on, but please make sure that you are registered before the day is out by 5 p.m. Get registered. If you think there's any chance at all you're going to be there, you must register ahead of time in order to give your public testimony and support the true history of Texas and the pro-America storytelling of this great country. We don't need any more people trying to tear down our great country. We see what's happening right now. And one other thing I just wanted to add um, before we wrap up our time together today. We're gonna call it just a little bit earlier today, but one thing I just wanted to remind you guys and encourage you to really get involved. I've been talking a lot about my social media kind of diet. Like I'm not consuming social media anymore, hardly ever. I'm not really on anymore. I'm looking at the things that are important to me based on what is important to me, not what the algorithm is putting in front of me and telling me to care about. And doing that's been is so refreshing. First of all, you are exponentially more productive when you are not living through someone else's life on social media. You are exponentially happier when you are not on social media because you are not comparing your life to anyone else. And I probably one of the best parts ever is it has allowed me to refocus on my family, on my kids, on my grandkids, on my life, on what is happening right now, right here with me and what God has given me right now to take care of. And so we made this decision, I don't know, a couple months ago. We were like, as soon as it warms up a little bit, when we know we're home more, we're going to go get chickens. So we got chicks. We got baby chicks. We've got like 25 chicks out there. Going to get back to doing our little hobby farm. The mister went and got a couple baby goats. We've got some baby goats out there now. We've got a big old huge mean dog that will eat anybody, because that is what he's designed to do, eat anybody who comes onto our property that we've not sanctioned. So we got that too. We started our garden. The mister actually started a garden. It really is growing things. It's growing tomatoes and peas and garlic and peppers and peppermint, all these spices. We did a ton of spices. I'm so excited about it. And all of this has been happening because we're not really on social media anymore. I'm so happy to come here and do this and share what is important, I think, to mothers across the country and to families across the country, things that I think are important for us to know about so that we can protect our families, but also so that we can thrive, right? Because I don't want to be a part of the fear squad. I don't. I lived in fear a long time ago. I don't want to live in fear. I don't think it supports industry and creativity. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I do want to thrive. And knowing that there are factions like this, knowing that there are, first of all, great people like Dr. Pickren who are willing to stand up against literal terrorists who are trying to force their way into your kids' schools. I, you know, that is worth talking about. That's worth making mention of, and that's worth getting behind the fighter who is God has prepared for this moment and supporting her in this fight and staying engaged on that because that has massive, long extending consequences. However, on the other hand, also we want to be productive, right? We want to know what's going on. So I wanted to leave you with this little nugget of for those of you who are industrious and entrepreneurial minded, and you're thinking, what can I be doing right now? One of the biggest missions of the Trump administration, especially with President Trump, has been to bring everything back home. We've had this problem though, because the cost to bring everything back home, manufacturing of anything to bring it back to America, is unbelievably expensive. And as you watch the Democrats create this massive inflation, which raised a lot of minimum wages, being $20, which is absolutely insane. You know, I just can't even believe what has gone on with that. It makes it nearly impossible for us to compete with foreign markets because, of course, people aren't making $20 an hour in China, in India, in Pakistan, in Taiwan. They're not making that kind of money. And in America, we're paying people $20 an hour to bag groceries. That was supposed to be a front level job, not a career. Okay, like first entry, right? Front entry job, not your whole life, not your whole career. You're going to work up from there. So, because they've done that, the cost of making goods in America is extremely, extremely difficult. However, I have a couple of amazing friends who love America and are committed to America First projects and manufacturing. And we've come up with several ways to massively cut the expense and cost of bringing manufacturing back to America. Right now, for example, there are so many incredible projects available online at sba.gov. I want you to go check them out if you're a small business and you're wanting to expand into American manufacturing. Go check out sba.gov. They are looking everywhere to give money away for those who are wanting to be productive and promote America First agenda, as well as woman-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. And let me just tell you, one of the biggest tax breaks you can get as a business owner is hiring veterans. It's massive. And not only that, but so therapeutic for our veterans as well to be back at it, working hard and helping to promote the country that they have sacrificed so much for. So I want to encourage you to go check out SBA.gov. I'm not given anything for doing that. It's just that I know people are asking, how do I get started? Where do I go for that capital, for that financing initially? There are great advisors on there who are willing to walk you through the process, help you figure out what you're going to need in order to advance to the next levels of what you're trying to accomplish for our great country. Also, when it comes to manufacturing and everyday items, you guys, we're talking about the very, very basic, most basic ingredients of basically everything. There's not a single product that is sold in mass in America that is built from the bottom to the top, the basic essential ingredients all coming from America to the finished project and the finished product like it all. I mean, even our steel was being offshored. So even our animals, as we had such this great conversation with Claire, even our animals were being raised offshore and then brought home to be supposedly made in America. That is not made in America. APN is not made in America. It just means you assembled everything in America. We're talking raw ingredients, the very, very basic necessities need to be brought home here to America. So here's what I want to ask you guys to do. Right now, I am on a very critical infrastructure project that I'm very excited about. And again, that is sourcing everything back to America or to the Western Hemisphere. I want to encourage all of you guys to go to the .gov site, go to the BARDA site, BARDA, go to ASPR, and look and see what projects are being needed right now to advance the America First agenda and jump in. Jump in. Be the solution that you've been looking for, that literally our country is desperately needing right now. Because when we look back at this big meeting that just happened with China and why it is we can't say anything bad about China and all that, because we're literally in no position right now to leave our partnership with China. We couldn't. About 85 to 90% of our pharmaceuticals are all coming from China. And we're talking basic things, guys. We're not talking vaccines. We're talking your solvents. We're talking blood thinners, our basic antibiotics. They're all coming from China or India. But as I've heard as of late, if it's coming from India, it's really coming from China. They're, working together. And very few, less than 12% statistically right now, is coming from the Western Hemisphere to fund our own pharmaceuticals in America. So we don't have the room right now to just walk away from China, because how many of our Americans would die within the next 90 days if they could not get their pharmaceuticals? The numbers are staggering. So we need great people with grit, determination, and who will actually take up this mantle and start walking with us in it. If that's you, if you're interested, if you want more information, please reach out to me. Contact America's Mom at gmail.com. Just send me a quick message and I will be happy to direct you. And you may be somebody who'd be a great team member for what we are doing. I don't know. You never know. Looking for great, talented salespeople. But I just want you to be encouraged. There's so much that this country needs right now. You can be a part of the solution. And I hope that you will be. I hope that you will exodus the social media train where everybody are living fake lives and staging their cameras and actually get busy to the actual job of living. Thank you guys for being with us today on America's Mom. Hope you have a fantastic